In this video, we're going to focus on a very unique way of drawing an item is to highlight certain sections of it here and then have these dotted lines here at the side indicating the value of that one here and make this a what we call a vertical line chart. So if I refresh here, you can see here it nicely creates this animation as well. So let's start to look at how to color specific section of the background color in a vertical line chart in Chartjs. So the first thing what we need is of course to get our default code, which you can find here on chartjs3.com. And getting started, this link is also in the description box. So scroll down here and then just copy this entire chunk of code. Copy that. And if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here. I'm going to just paste that all in there, and once I did that, I'll just cut out this title here and put it in here. Save that, refresh, there we are. So what I truly want to do is basically this, because this is the picture I received in my email, and this is the request. Can we create basically here these vertical lines and then have a certain section here of our vertical line chart being colored? So to do this, we need to convert this line chart into a vertical line chart. So let's create here a vertical line chart. Well, let's make this a line chart. So what I will do is for the colors, I'll just remove all these colors except for the upper one. Then once we did that, we're going to say align, save, refresh. So now we have this here, and what we want to do now is to convert it that it will go from top to bottom or bottom to top. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to say in here in the options, we're going to say index axis. Then this equals y. The moment we do this and refresh, we can see here now, basically we converted or swapped the x and y axis. So what happened here, we get here the days, and then here down we get the values. And it's very similar to our picture here, except for the picture is just straight, but in our case we have a little bit of zigzag effect, and that's fine as well. So what I want to do next is the following. Well, let's look at this. So you might say here we have this here, and I will not work on this because this is a slightly customization. But if you really look carefully, you can see the lowest value is up and the highest value is down. If you want to achieve something like this, there's a reverse method here. So I'm going to show you. For example, here we want to reverse this so that Monday is down and Sunday is up. All we're going to do here on the Y scale, we're going to say reverse equals true, comma, save. Refresh, and now Monday is at the very bottom and Sunday is at the very top. Alright, so we have this here now, we're done here, and what I want to do, and you can see here also the entire structure is slightly different. So what I want to do now is start to work on drawing these so-called vertical lines. Here we have a lot of work to do. We have the lines, we have this here, we have that here, we have these dots here, and probably at the bottom they will be same as well. And then finally we would have here these zigzag lines, or at least the filling of that one. So how do we do this? Well, let's create here first these straight lines. So I'm going to scroll down here, I'm going to say comma, and I'm going to say plugins. And in this plugin, for these plugins, we're going to call here, let's see what is the proper name for this plugin. We can call our vertical line. Vertical line. And this vertical line will be placed here up as a new plugin. So it's a vertical line plugin block. And in here, I'll say constant vertical line equals, and then we're going to say here ID for that. Alright, so once we have this one, I tend to keep these three here very consistent. Of course, you can give it different names if you want, but you have to understand what you're doing then. So, but I would say keep them consistent. It's easy for yourself. It will avoid any mistakes. And then what we want to do here is start to figure out when would we like to draw those so-called straight lines. So if I go back here, we're going to start here at the very top. We're going to make these lines here. And so we need to have them here up. But of course, if you look very carefully, we want to have them after these grid lines has been drawn. So if I look here, we have our grid lines, but after the grid lines has been drawn, we should have those so-called lines. Or not even that, maybe even on top of the data set. Should we do that one? Oh, click on here. Might be as well. We can just do it on top of the data set as well. So we're going to say here, after the data set has been drawn, so after data sets draw, then we're going to say here chart, and then we can have here arcs, and then we have here plugin options. Although I will not use the last two, so I will ignore them. This is basically an object, they all are, but we're going to do here this object, and I'm going to what we call object destructuring. We're going to split this object into multiple items. Why? Because if you look at this, if I do just console of chart, save, refresh, open up developer tab, you might see here this object here, and what I need is, for example, here the chart area where we get all these coordinates, which refers to all of this here. And if you want to understand chart area, I have a video which indicates understanding the chart area, so you know exactly what I'm doing here. I would highly recommend you to watch that one. So what I need as well is we have the CTX, because we want to pinpoint this specific canvas here. So you can see from chart.ctx and chart area, we can get all of these coordinates. And finally, what I need, of course, is scales. So let's get them and let's do this. So I'm going to say here, constant. This is what we call the object destructuring, as I was referring to. Then here from chart, in the chart, we have CTX, comma, chart area, and it's specifically top, comma, bottom, left, right, width, and height. Well, we might not use them all, but I'll just put them all in there just for the sake of that, so we have them ready. Then we have also the scales. What I want to know here is basically X and Y scale. And the reason why is I need to know these specific coordinates here, because later on I want to, for example, pinpoint a certain item. And you might say here, can we put this on 0? Yes, of course, let's do that one as well. I realized that I forgot about that. So we go in here, you say X, begin at 0, and we say here, we can even cut out that one because the Y had no 0 value. There were labels. Put in your comma, comma, save, refresh. Alright, so now we move them more. Now it's 0 here, and here's the 2. So what I want to do now is start working on creating the line. And the reason why I have the chart area here is because we can get here the top line and the bottom line. Basically, I want this is the top line here, and then the bottom line, and then here you have the left and right side. However, for us, the top and bottom coordinates are essential, so we can draw the line identical to here. So let's do this one first. So what I'm going to do here is, let's go in here and I'm going to say here, CTX, because we're going to draw on the canvas, that's why we have this here now, CTX dot. And then we're going to say here, begin path, to start with our drawing shape, and then we're going to say here, CTX dot stroke style, just to give it a color. So what is the color of the line? In this case, I'll just grab here our color that we have here, the border color, or maybe let's get the background color here. Slightly lighter, so it's different compared to the official border color. So I'm going to put it in here, but I'm going to make this 0.5, so it's still easy to spot. Then I'm going to say here the width of the line. So we say here line width equals 3 pixels, it'll be fine. And then once we have this, what I want to do is I want to first create the line. So I'm going to say CTX.move to, and this would indicate, because we have here an X and Y value, this indicates what is the starting point. Well, I want to move here. So it will not draw anything, but it will pick up the starting point here. And let's say here, this will be the starting point here. So we need an X and Y here. We have the X and Y. We already know the Y value, because the Y value will be the top, which would be this very top here. Or specifically, anywhere here on this line. So what we need to do is also the X value, and the X value will be based on the scale value. This is the reason why we had this one here. I'm going to show you later on. So I'm going to say here, this will be top. So the Y is top. And here, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get the X coordinates, and that's why we have here the X and Y. So we're going to say X, and then we say here, get pixel for the value. And what is our value? Well, if I want to highlight from number 6, so the X value is 6. So what it really does is it grabs here the 6 value and convert it into a pixel coordinate to calculate how many pixels is that from left side going to the right. And that's basically what we're doing here. Once we did this, I can copy this again. Then I'm going to just put it down here, but I'm going to say instead of move to, we're going to say now line to, meaning move is the starting point, and then the line is drawing the line from wherever. So we're going to say here, we're going to go down all to the bottom here. This is the bottom line. So that would mean basically we're not going to move to the left or right. We will maintain the same original coordinates here, but this will be set on the bottom. Once I did this, we're going to say CTX, and then we're going to say stroke to draw the line. And I'm going to say here ctx.close path to close that, and then save. Refresh. There we are. So now we have this here, and you might say, well, okay, we have this, but how do we make this dotted? Alright, so let's create a dotted line for this. What I'm going to say here, enter ctx dot. I'm going to set line, then dash, then here, bracket 6, 6, standing of meaning 6 pixels in solid line, and then after that 6 pixels of white space. Refresh. There we are. So now we have our first line. What I want to do is I want to get a next line, but if you look very carefully, you might notice that we're missing some parts of our circle. And here as well, you see this dotted line here. This is normal. So what we need to do is we need to basically unset this. For some reason we have to do it like this. Although I want to do here as well ctx.restore to reset everything. But this will not work on the set line dash. So what I'm going to do in the set line dash afterwards, put this array on 0. Save, refresh. Now, here everything looks again fine, and this button looks fine. It only targets this specific item. Alright, so now we have this. What I want to do is the next one is, for example, here I want to make here a line on number 11. So that we have eventually, if you look at the picture here, we have one side here and another side here that will be another dotted line. And in between that, or within that section, we're going to give it a color. So what I want to do here is the following. To make it easy, because basically what we need is just to duplicate this code. But I don't want to duplicate it because this is already a good code. Why would we duplicate it? Because we should keep it dry, meaning do not repeat yourself. So I'm going to use a function. And this function will be eventually used to draw twice the line. So I'm going to say a function, and we can say here dotted line. And we will cut out everything here, put it all in there. There we are. So now, once we have this, what I want to do here is, because if I save this, nothing happens. Alright? But if I say this function here, put it in there, save, now it draws. However, what it draws is a solid position. So I want to change that position here, which is basically this value here. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to say here, number 6, and here I'm going to say here, X position. I need to give it a different name than X. The reason why is because we already use X here, and that will be in conflict. So that's why I say X position. So put in here, X position, save, refresh. Alright, so now it works. What I can do now is put another dotted line here. Let's say 11, save, there we are. Now we have here on the 11 a dotted line, and here on number 6. So now what I want to do is the next part is start to work on the circles on the very top and the bottom. So to do that, what I'm going to do here is I need to make what we call an arc. So I'm going to say here ctx dot, and then almost exactly the same, begin path. And then once I have the ctx dot begin path, the next thing what I want to do here is to get the fill style. So ctx dot fill style, and then I guess here I can just copy this. But I will make it solid, make it a solid line. Number 1. So we have a solid pink line or reddish pink line. Next, what I want to do is I want to make the circle. So for that, we're going to say ctx.arc. This is the command to draw a circle, or specifically an arc. So it doesn't have to be a full circle, but in our case, we want a full circle. And what we want to do is basically this here. Those tiny circles that we have here and down. Remember those here. So those are maybe 4 or 5 pixels. So let's start to work on it. Put them up here, and down, down. So let's draw one first. But to do this, I need to have here the X, Y. And once I have that one, what I will also have is what we call the radius. Then we have here the angle start, angle end. And then we have here the counterclockwise, CT. Or was it counterclockwise? CC, I guess, but what we can do in this one is set on false, by the way. No need for this one. This here, the angle is very important because what we're going to do is we're going to work with the radius, and then we have to work here not only with radius but also with angles, because you have to think of a circle is 360 degrees. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to quickly make that, because normally you can use here pi, but just to make it easier, I'm going to say here constant angle equals math.pi, because a 1 pi equals 160 degrees or 180 degrees, which is a half circle. So 2 pi is 360 degrees, which is a full circle. So what I'm going to do here is, because it's a half circle, I'll just divide it by 180 degrees, so we get the angle or the degree. So what I want to do here then is this multiplied by 0 as our starting point, and then here multiply by 360, so we make a full circle. If you want to understand this, please watch my videos about how to use the arc for Canvas, for the Canvas API. I have a whole video series about that. I highly recommend you to watch that as well. For the radius here, if you look at our circle, it's really tiny. I would say here maybe 5 pixels in radius is more than sufficient. You can make it smaller, it doesn't matter. So if we're going to save this, go back here, refresh, nothing happens yet. And the reason why, of course, is we have the X and Y, we didn't put it in the position, and we didn't give it any drawing. It didn't draw yet. So what is the exact position? Well, remember what we did here at the very top. We can just grab this. I'm going to put it in here. Or, well, basically this one here. Later on, we'll make a function out of it, so it doesn't matter. So we have this here. And then this here, I'll just say for now, 6. Next, what I want to do here is the following. I want to say here ctx.fill. Alright, and then here I will say ctx dot close path. So we want to close this path, and if I save this and refresh, we should see now a nice circle. Alright, so we have a circle here. If you find it too big, we can reduce this, maybe make this 3, like that. There we are. Alright, we have this one. Let's put it here and at the bottom. To do that, what I'm going to do is again a function. Let's say a function. You can say here circle, make sure you spell it correctly, and then here we have to be very carefully now what we want. We want to get the X and Y coordinate. So I'm going to say here X position again. And this will not conflict with this one because this one is built in this function and this value is only triggered within this function here. And so make sure we have these curly braces here. Cut out this, put it in there, indent, there we are. So now what I want to do here, we have this. I want to say here with the X position, but also the Y position. So I say here, Y position. So now I can copy this, put it in there, copy that, put it in here. And all I will say here now is circle. And then we say here 6, I guess. Or what we need to do is, I realize we need to have like this. Because we need to get here the number. We're going to put in here the number. So it's only this. And then we say here 6. And then I'll say here top. So once I did this, save, refresh, you can see it works. So let's do it at the bottom. So I'm going to copy this. Just do the same, except now I'll say here bottom. Save, refresh. There we are. Alright, now we can do for this one exactly the same methodology. Copy all of this, paste that in there, and this should be 11. Alright, save, refresh. So now we have this one here. Alright, so the next part is, let's look at this. What we need to do here, we need to put in these rectangles with a grayish background color and then a border line around it, and of course the value. So this value here is probably of this line here, not on the left, not on the y-axis, but on the x-axis. So let's assume here this is 0, this is 190, and then here 280. Well, in our case, it will be, if you look at what we did this one on number 6 and this one on 11. So what I want to do here, we'll make this here 6 and here 11. Alright, so to do this, we're going down here now, and then here what you can say is the rectangle. And then in the rectangle, what I'm going to do here again, here is ctx, and then we're going to say here, we don't have to use a begin path, but what I do need here is to figure out what is our coordinates here, and then maybe our background color. So I'm going to say ctx dot, let's see here, fill style. Let's do our background color first. And then the background color was a bit of a grayish color. So I'm going to say here, RGBA, and let's say 102, 102. This is the gray color that Chartjs uses. And then we can say here 0.5 to make it a light grayish item. Then what I want to do here is next ctx dot stroke style. And this stroke style will be our border color that we have here. Copy that. That's the pinkish reddish color. So once we did this, I'm going to say here ctx dot. And then for this, let's see what we need here is we need to say here the ctx dot. I guess the fill rectangle, if I'm not mistaken, or the rectangle. Sorry, that's the one I need. So in the rectangle, what I want to do here is I'm going to get again the x and y starting point, because we're going to put it basically somewhere. Let's say I'm not really certain here. It was not clear what the position or why the position was here. So what I will do is I'll just put it somewhere in the center. But of course you can play around with that to move that somewhere down. Doesn't matter. I will just put it here. So this is basically height divided by 2. That's basically what we're doing here. So we have here the x and y position. And then after that we have what we call the width and the height. But I want here the position on the x, that would be probably this one. Let's say here, we'll put this on 6, and the y value will be height divided by 2, and the height is the chart area item divided by 2 here. So once I have this, then I have to say here how many pixels in width will this be. So if we look at this picture here, I'm not sure how much, but it should fill or fit the text nicely. So what we can do for now, I guess we can say here, what would we do here? Not sure. Let's say 25 pixels or 30 pixels. Then the height, because our font will later on be added, let's say 15 pixels, because the font will be approximately 12 pixels. So once we have this, I'm going to say a ctx dot fill style, then we're going to say fill to draw it, and then ctx dot stroke to draw also the stroke lines. Finally, what I want to do here is to say the border width or the line width. That's the border basically, and let's say 1 pixel. Save that, refresh. Alright, so now we get this, and you can see here the position is basically starting here exactly. That's fine, but if you look at our picture, it should be on the left side once it's here, and the other side must be on the right side. So we want to figure that one out. So I'm going to say here, we need to minus, let's say minus 20. And I guess we could do a little bit more, minus 30. Even more, 35. Oh, sorry, I have to remove the references. Minus 35. That is better. Alright, so now we have this one here. That's the first one here that we need to have. So what we need to do here, eventually make a function out of it. Then we have to figure out if this is all nicely aligned or fit with our text. And then what I think here, I can just do is slightly lighter. There we are. So what I'm going to do here now is create a quick function. Let's say function rectangle. And then I'm going to cut out this, put that in there. Alright. So for now, I'll just say here rectangle. No value yet. We have to see later on. Or well, maybe we could say here the x position will be 6. And that's this one here for now. Of course, we still need to figure out this one here. If I save this now, refresh, this works. So what I want to do next is let's do the text, and then afterwards we're going to look at how this will be positioned nicely. So in here we also have the text, and I realize that will be a separate item within here. That should be, let's say here, text, and this should be here, hello, or something like that. What was that, number 6, I guess. So text, although we have this here, so basically we don't even have to do a text item, but it doesn't matter. I'll just leave it in there in case you want to say something else more. Let's say value equals this, something like that. Anyway, what I want to do now is I want to start to draw the font. So I'm going to say ctx.font equals. I'm going to say here the font style, which is, let's make it bold. What I want more is 12 pixels, and finally I want to say here the font family, which is sans serif, which is the default setting in Chartjs. So once I have this, I put an enter here. I want to make it now a color. So I'm going to say a ctx.fill style, and let's say here the fill style Chartjs is #666. That's the official color. That's the dark grayish color. So I'm going to use that. And then next, what I want to do here now is I want to say ctx.fill text to draw the text. And in here, it's basically this here. Basically here we would put in the text, which in this case is this text. And then we have here, of course, the x and y coordinates. So the x and y coordinates is basically this. That's the first one here. And then probably here exactly the same, minus 35. And then the height here, we can just copy this for now. Let's put that in there. Save that. Refresh. And there we are. Alright, so now we have this here. And I realize I just removed the value text. I just want to put in the number. We don't need anything of this. So we save this, refresh. Alright, so now we have this here. So what I want to do next is now start to figure out how we can position this correctly. So I want to push this a bit more down. So how to do that? Well, what I want to do here, I'm going to use very basic items here. I'm going to say a ctx. And then I'm going to say here text align. We say here equals center. Save, refresh. So now we have this, and then what I want to do is I want to put this here. So how will we do this? Well, so let me check here. What we need to do here is we have to put this in the center. Let me see what would be the best. Because we are still having a few items that we need to do here, which is basically the height, so the y value. So let's say here, I'll leave that one. That one is fine. I just need to find this one here. This should be a difference here. So what I'm going to do, put a comma. I'll say a difference, comma, and this will be minus 35. And here, and the reason I'm doing minus 35 here, I go to plus here, and plus difference. Remember, if you have a plus minus, it will be equal to minus. So that's a deduction in mathematical formulas. So if I save this now and do this, alright, it's still same position here. Let me check here. So I need to just think here how we're going to do that one. I need to push that down. We have to see here our height needs to be pushed down. We have the height divided by 2, and then we say here plus. Let's see here, 15 pixels, see how that works. Alright, that is not. So if we have that, we can do maybe 7 pixels. There we are. So we have 7 pixels here. Now what I want to do is I want to move this more to the right. So how do we do that? So to move this to the right, what we need to use is another functionality. And basically what we can do here, because right now we have this solid X amount of pixels width. But of course, what happens if you have a long text? So what I want to do, I want to make this dynamic based on whatever our text is. To do that, I'm going to use this here, this 6 here, which is our text. I'm going to put here, enter, and I'm going to say here, constant text width. I'm going to measure the text by using a specific functionality. So we're going to say here, ctx dot measure text, which is a command to measure how many pixels the text is in width. And then we're going to say here, whatever the text is, that is this one here, put in here, and say dot width. So once I have this text width will be replacing this here. So if I save that, refresh. Alright, so we have this now, and you can see it will fit exactly, but of course, what I want to do here is, I'm going to say here, plus 10 pixels, so we have some padding left and right. Alright, now we have this, now we have to figure out how we can put in that specific item in there. So this text width will be also used in our item here. Let's see. Now what we can do here is, I'm going to say here, because we have the difference here, I realize this must be also a plus, exactly the same. So I'm going to say, well, first of all, I'm going to say plus this, and I'm going to say here plus div. So what we're really doing, and basically here is the minus 35 plus whatever the width of the text is. Save, refresh. Alright, so now we have this, but then I need to divide the width by 2, so it will be exactly in the center. Width divided by 2. Alright, this is a quite complicated formula, so this requires a bit of mathematics. Save this, refresh. Alright, so now we are in here, and we could maybe push it a few pixels down to be a bit in the center. If you want that, let's say here, plus 8. That's alright. So what happened if I would change this to 600? There we are. It will keep it in position. So if I do this very long, will it push it more? As you can see here, the only thing here is it will not push that one. So you might rearrange that, or maybe even, I'm realizing maybe here the text align center must be text align right. So it will always push everything to the left. That might be even another option, but that will be same here. But that's alright. I will ignore that one. If you understand what I did here, I'm going to recommend you to explore the mathematics of this, so you can play around with that. So now we have this here, and this was a quite challenging item for me. So the next thing what I want to copy that. And here, same here. This I'm just going to be easy with this right now. I'm just going to say here +5. So because I want to draw it here, but I want to go away a little bit from this line here. +5. Well, this is maybe 10 pixels. Let's say here +10 as well. Then I'm going to say this is 11. Save. Refresh. Alright, we have this. That is correct because this should be 11 here as well. There we are. So we have this here, and I do notice one thing, and I can explain this one so far, is this one is probably, maybe it's my screen, I don't think so. I think it's just really the item itself. This item here is slightly darker compared to that one. Why this is, I can't say for now, so I'll just ignore that one. But I might figure that out in the near future. So, we have this now here, we have this, and then maybe we can say here CTX fill, stroke, alright. Here, then I want to say here, first of all, CTX restore. Maybe that will solve our color issue here. Not really, anyway. Then that's alright, so I just make this slightly lighter. There we are, so it's easy to spot. Alright, so now we have this. What I want to do now is we have two of those items here. The text is done. We could maybe move this a little bit more by just saying instead of -35, let's say -30. Save that, refresh. There we are. So then what I want to do now is the final item, which is the background color here. So to do that, what I need to do here is to go into this specific item here. I want to play around with the background color. So to play around with the background color, what I need to do here is to indicate specifically in the background color the context, or maybe we're going to make a callback. So I'm going to say here, remove that. Background color is a context, which is a callback, and there is a arrow function expression, comma down. Then in here, we're going to make this basically gradient. But our goal here is not really to make gradient. What I want to do is I want a radical switch of color the moment we hit outside of the area. When we are within the area, the color will be on whatever the shape is here, except for this white. This should be white, this should be white, but here this should be colored. So let's start to work on that right now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say a constant. And this will be chart. And here we're going to basically, very similar in object destructuring, which is constant chart, like that, or at least we do like this. Very similar to what we did here. Remember this? But now we have it slightly different, like that. Alright? So then what I want to do here is constant. Then here object destructuring, or CTX, comma, chart, area, and then comma, scales equals the chart. And then what I want to say here, if, and this is very important because when we are loading this, the first 2 seconds, if I refresh here, this animation here, make sure that the first 2 animation loops will not have a chart area value. So, well, let me show you. Maybe that will make more sense if I say that. If I show you. Say a chart area. Save that, refresh. Open up developer tab. Alright, let's try again. Scroll up to the top. You can see here, undefined. Well, basically, first 2 up to 4, I guess, or first 4 has none. This is important to understand. Because of this, this would mean that we're going to get an error if we immediately work on getting these numbers here. Because it will say, sorry, it's undefined. So what I want to do is, if it's undefined, I will just say, ignore that, make it a null value until it loops. Because you can see here, the animation loops approximately 35 times. So, or there's like a 35 times of loop, or maybe even 60 times, depending on the, the frames per second, sorry. Depending on the frames per second on your screen. So, So that's basically animation, and the animation is just below 1 second. So probably if it's half a second, it's 30 frames on average. So that's why this one here will not be considered, but this will block or give us an error. So what we need to do here is we're going to say here this: if chart area, or there is no chart area, which means undefined, in that case I say return null. If I save this, refresh, now it is in here, although you will not see it here, but now we can start working on basically the return value here. We're going to return, or we're going to do something here. It's the get gradient functionality, because it will load this, but of course if the first 5 values or four values are undefined, it will block it and it will shut down the function. I'll show you later as well how it will look like if it shuts down. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to grab all of these parameters we have here, or objects. I'm going to put it in here. And this here is a new functionality. This function will create our gradient color. So we want to return a gradient background color here. So how do we do this? So I'm going to grab this here. I'm going to scroll down here at the bottom. All down to the bottom here, I'm going to say the following: function get gradient. And then here, remember these parameters we had here above. Where are they? Here, this one. Let's grab this, because we're going to use them now. We put them in here. Since we already used this here already, you should be already familiar now with, because we used it here. But here we have the chart area more specified with top instead of chart area, because chart area is also a object that consists of 6 values. So we have this one here. Now what I want to do here is the following. I'm going to say here, let's say here, constant. And I'm going to say here gradient bg, which is the gradient background color, equals ctx dot create linear gradient color. And the gradient color, basically the starting point, we can say here 0. That will mean here starting point is exactly at the very beginning of the canvas. So we're going to really target the beginning point of the canvas. And what we want to do is from left to right only. Top to bottom, we don't have to do any gradient effect, because if we do that, it will create maybe a different shape than what we want. All we want to do is left to right, and then make a solid color out of it. Or solid, at least similar to this. This will be a color if ever it matches the condition of this. So what I'm going to do here, this, comma, then I'm going to say here 0, because we don't have to go on the y. So basically this is the x, this is the y top, and this is the x left, and then we have here the width and the height, which is the width and height. But what I want to do is the width will be, what exactly? Chart area dot left. Oh, sorry, dot right. So why? Because I want the right side here, which is the end of the canvas. That's this line here. And then what I want to say here, for the height, 0. We will not do anything on the height. So that will mean that it will just, we have top to bottom, we'll have full colors. That's it. So then what I want to do here, I'm going to say here, gradient bg dot add color stop. And this color stop will say 0, comma, and then what we're going to do here is, we want to make it white, or I don't want to make it white, I want to make it transparent, because if I make it white, it will overlap the background here and will be hard to see. So we make this transparent as a starting point. Or maybe what I will say is, I'll just show you here, let's make this blue, so you have understand what I'm doing. And then what I want to do is, I'm going to make another one. Make this one, copy that, and just grab the official color that we're going to use, which is this one here. It's a solid, but I will make this 0.5 just to make it a bit more easier to read. So once we have this, we can say this, and then what I want to do here is I want to say return the gradient. Gradient bg, of course, that's it. So what I really did here, 0 means the starting point here in percentage, and 1 is 100% at the very end. So if I save this now, refresh. So we have this here, alright, and then we have the color here, blue, and then I was expecting an item here, but surprisingly enough, it is not really giving us a color. What am I missing here? Let me double check. Alright, so I realized what we're missing. We're just missing one single item here. So the issue is not that the color is not working. It is working fine. That's why you can see here these items. But what we're missing is the following. I need to indicate that we have a background color here. So we're going to scroll up to the top here into our background color here. This border width could maybe be removed. Let's remove that, save that, refresh. Alright. But what I want to do now is I want to have a fill color. So I'm going to say here and put it in enter. We're going to say fill equals true. What this does is will trigger the background color. Save that, refresh. There we are. So now we have this one here. You know, this starts to work. So I'm going to scroll down here now. And then we have our colors here. And I'm going to make this back to transparent. Save, refresh. So as you can see here, the transparency starts to work and it kicks in. But what I want to do here is I don't want it transparent in gradient effect. Now I want an instant switch from one to another. So how do we do that? Well, we're going to copy this and then it's going to put it in here. And let's say here at 50%, we want to switch it into this instant color. Then later on, I'm going to show you how to calculate the remaining. So we're going to say here 0.5, save, refresh. So you can see here now we get this instant switch here. However, we have now are slightly challenged because we want to be within this area here. To do this, we need to understand percentages here, and we need to calculate the percentage of our starting point, which is 0, which is everything at the left side, all to the end here, which is basically the width of this item. If we calculate the width of the item is 656, that's the width here. So the width of 656, percentage of that, and then we figure out here the pixel coordinate of this item here. Alright, so I hope you're able to follow along with that one or understand that, because let's start to do this now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say constant. Let's say this is our starting point. What is our starting point here in this case? Is basically the scales. We're here in the scales, and then we go to the dot x, and then we say a dot get pixel for value. Remember the one we used in the plugin. So then here the value was 6, so I'm going to say here 6. So if you want to understand what this does, is we're going to say here console log start. If I save that, refresh. Alright, so let me just remove here this and go up here. Do we have it? This? Let's remove this. And by the way, I said I will show you what happens if we don't use this. If I save this and do like this, you see we get a median error. It blocks it. It just doesn't allow it. So that's why we need this. So this is absolutely required. Without that, it won't work. Alright, so we have this here now. So if you look at it, you can see here we get these numbers. First 4 times we get 240 and afterwards we get 255. So it changes. Why? Because if I refresh, you can see the animation makes it slightly change as well. So that's why this is very important to understand. Because of the animation, it will load and eventually it will get us the official value. So now we have this, but what I want to do is I want to get here the item. Scroll down here. Go back. We have this start here. But what I want to do is I want to have a percentage of this. So I'm going to say here this divide by what exactly? Well, by the chart area right, which is whatever the item is. By default, if we close this, this is 700 pixels, the width. But if you open up the console log, it will calculate this, and right now it is, but if I refresh here, now it will reposition itself, and now it's 656. So that will mean that once the size changes and refreshes, this formula will nicely move. So I'm going to copy this chart area right here. Save that, refresh. Now you get here, and you can see here, it is 0.37 plus plus. So what I want to do here is I want to just grab this start, and I say start, and start here. Save, refresh. There we are. So now we have the first one, and let's remove these console logs. I guess they are getting very heavy. Save, refresh. Alright, and then here's 74. I just need to look what is number 74. I just remove that one. 74. Alright, there we are. So now we have this. What I want next is basically I want to cut it out here so that we can ignore this specific section once we are surpassing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here and do exactly the same. Where is that? Scroll down here. But now, instead of the start, I want to have what we call our ending value. So constant end equals, let's copy all of this, put in here, and this will be 11, because 11 is our ending point. That's this here. And then I'm going to grab this, or what I can do is I'm going to copy this. We can just copy this one here, put it in there, and I'm going to say this is the end. We changed. And then what I want to do is I want another end. This should be transparent, because at the very end of this transparent, which is 100%, enter here, copy this, put it in there, and say, and instantly go to transparent. Save, refresh. And there we are. So now we have this side nicely white, this part white, 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 and then here we have this. And that's basically how you can play around and create this wonderful shape here, similar. So if you like this video and maybe you want to understand more about the chart area, I highly recommend you to watch this specific video here, understanding the chart area in Chartjs, because with this you can do truly a lot with a plugin and do a lot of customization.